Hi boys and girls, I'm Miss Lydia from the Boston Library. Thank you for joining me for story time this morning. Today we are reading some of my favorite stories about mice. So we're going to start with this one called If You Give a Mouse a Cookie by Laura Numeroff. If you give a mouse a cookie. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk. When you give him the milk, he'll probably ask for a straw. When he's finished, he'll ask for a napkin. Then he'll want to look in a mirror to make sure he doesn't have a milk mustache. When he looks into the mirror, he might notice that his hair needs a trim. So he'll probably ask for a pair of nail scissors. When he's finished giving himself a trim, he'll want to sweep up. So he'll need a broom. He'll start sweeping. He might get carried away and sweep every room in the house. He may even end up washing the floors as well. And when he's done, he'll probably want to take a nap. You'll have to fix up a little box for him with a blanket and a pillow. He'll crawl in, make himself comfortable, and fluff the pillow a few times. He'll probably ask you to read him a story. So you'll read to him from one of your books, and he'll ask to see the pictures. When he looks at the pictures, he'll get so excited that he wants to draw one of his own, and he'll ask for paper and crayons. And he'll draw a picture. When the picture is finished, he'll want to sign his name. That's a beautiful picture he drew, isn't it? And he'll need a pen. Then he'll want to hang up his picture on your refrigerator, which means he'll need Scotch tape. He'll hang up his drawing and stand back to look at it. Looking at the refrigerator will remind him that he's thirsty. So he'll ask for a glass of milk. And chances are, if he asks for a glass of milk, what do you think he's going to want to go with that? He'll want a cookie to go with it. Look at the mess they made at the end there. He looks pretty tired, doesn't he? And that's the end. Our next book is called Library Mouse, A World to Explore by Daniel Kirk. Sam was a library mouse. He lived in a little hole in the wall behind the children's reference books. Every night, he went looking for adventure between the covers of books. One evening, Sam went for a stroll. He smiled to see the class projects children had made to place on top of the library shelves. A poster on the wall read, "Discover our great big world." "It is a great big world," Sam said, "and I love to read all about it." Then he sighed, gazing at the books on the very top shelves, which were just a little too high for him to climb. Suddenly, Sam saw something out of the corner of his eye. Swish! Another mouse landed gracefully on the floor right in front of him. "Whoa," she said, "that was some ride. Good thing I had my parachute." She stuck out her paw and smiled. "Hi, my name's Sarah. What's yours?" I'm Sam," he answered. "I live here." "I live here too," Sarah said, "on the other side of the library. I was exploring, and that's when I discovered that playground." "Playground?" said Sam. "Up high, on the shelves," Sarah explained. "You can almost see the whole world. I just went on that giant slide. I didn't know I was going to fall so far, though." "You climbed all the way up there?" Sam asked. He had never dared to go all the way to the top. "Sure," said Sarah. "I'm an explorer. All explorers climb." Sam shook his head. "Well, that's not a slide. You just went down the side of a pyramid." "A what?" "A pyramid," Sam said. "Like in ancient Egypt, only children made this one. There are pictures of real pyramids in these books you knocked off the shelf." "Wow," Sarah said. "I didn't know there were books about stuff like this. Are there books about those other fun things I was climbing? Sarah asked. You mean the Statue of Liberty and the Eiffel Tower? Sam grinned. Follow me. We're going to do some research, Sam said. We'll start with Egypt. What's research? Sarah asked. It's how you find out about things, Sam said. If you can't go to the real pyramids, you can read about them. Right over here. Sam and Sarah pored over dozens of books, and Sarah oohed and ahed at the pictures. She gazed up at the tall shelves and said, Research is fun. Let's climb up high and see what books are up there. Not tonight, Sam said, looking warily at the tall shelves. Maybe we could play down here. Then let's pretend we're pharaohs in ancient Egypt, Sarah said. We can use these books for research on how to dress up. It was nearly daylight when Sam returned home. He picked up his pencil to write about what had happened. He had never met anyone like Sarah before. The next night, Sarah said, There's a jeep up there that's just our size, Sam. Come on. We can pretend we're exploring and drive to the top of the tallest mountain. I don't think you can drive to the top of the tallest mountain in a jeep, Sam said. Besides, we can pretend from down here. You're not afraid, are you? Sarah asked. Of course not, Sam said in a squeaky voice. Sarah saw that Sam was nervous. We could always do a little research first, she said. Good idea, said Sam. While looking at a book about mountain climbers, Sarah had another idea. I'll be right back, she said, and she returned with some string and a paper clip. I'll hook one end of the string up at the top, she said. Then I'll drop the other end down, and you can tie it around your waist. That way, you won't have to worry about falling. I'm not worried, said Sam, as she started to climb. Soon, it was his turn. He remembered he had read that when climbing, he should not look down. So he didn't. At the top of the shelf, Sam breathed a sigh of relief. It hadn't been as scary as he had thought it would be, and he and Sarah played and played until dawn. Back on the ground, Sarah said, You know, I bet we could explore even more of the world if we rode that airplane over there. Sam looked up at the display the librarian had hung above the tallest shelves. It doesn't really fly, he said, and we couldn't reach it anyway. I know it can't fly, said Sarah, but think of how much of the world we could see from up there. We can climb to the top of the bookshelf and then jump over to the plane. It'll be easy. But Sarah wouldn't take no for an answer. Sam, she said, tonight we're going to get into that airplane and we're going to see the world. Throughout the day, Sam was so nervous he could hardly sleep or read. He didn't want to let Sarah or himself down, but he didn't want to get into their airplane either. That night, Sarah led Sam to the top of the bookshelf. The plane looked very far away. We're explorers and good jumpers too. We can do it, Sarah said. Sam clenched his teeth and crept to the edge. Follow me, Sarah said, and then she jumped. Sam jumped too and climbed into the back seat behind Sarah. We're off to see the world, she cried. But just at that moment, the string that held the airplane broke. Woohoo! Sarah hollered. Ah! Sam screamed. And they sailed over the Eiffel Tower and the Great Wall of China and over the Statue of Liberty and the Great Pyramids. They sailed past volcanoes and mountaintops, past coral reefs and deserts, between dark rows of bookshelves, and right out the front door of the children's room. The airplane bumped to a stop in a dark hallway. Sam leaped out of his seat. He didn't stop running until he was back in his little hole in the wall. Sam, Sarah cried, come back. Explorers don't run from danger. Sam hid behind his bed and wouldn't come out. But later, when his heart stopped pounding, he went to his writing desk, picked up his pencil, and got to work on a new project. Readers and writers are explorers too, he said. Wow, Sarah said the next evening when she saw Sam's book. Sam and Sarah see the world. We're both a couple of explorers. See his book there? And we never even had to leave the library, said Sam. We didn't have to leave the library, Sarah said with a twinkle in her eye. But just think of the books you could write if you really got to see the world. What do you say we do a little research trip? As they strolled through the library, Sam didn't know what to say. He had never met a mouse like Sarah. Our last book is called Mouse and the Moon by M. Christina Butler and Tina McNaughton. Little Harvest Mouse lived by himself in a field of grain. Every night, the warm summer breezes rocked his cozy nest, and his friend the moon watched over him from the deep blue sky. Before Mouse closed his eyes each night, he sang a lullaby to his very own moon. But one evening, a cold wind rushed through the field, and the little Harvest Mouse couldn't see his friend anymore. Mouse peeked out of his nest. Everything looked so different without the moon's friendly glow. Trembling, he raced across to the field. "Someone's stolen the moon!" he shouted. "Someone's stolen the moon?" quacked Duck. "I can't believe that. The moon is in the pond, where she always is." "In the pond?" thought Mouse. "That can't be." But he followed Duck as she looked in the water. But the moon was not there. "Where has she gone?" cried Duck. "The moon doesn't live in the pond," laughed Squirrel, who was listening nearby. "She's above my nest, in the fir tree." "The moon doesn't live in the tree," said Duck. "She does," said Squirrel, and he scampered around every branch, but he couldn't find the moon. "She's not here," he called down in a panic. "The wind must have blown her away." Rabbit was on his way home when he heard all the fuss. "Blown the moon away," he grinned. "Never. She was in the mountains with me." "The moon doesn't go to the mountains," said Squirrel. "Of course she does," stated Rabbit, and they all dashed after him to find the moon. Little Harvest Mouse searched the sky. Duck looked in every pool and puddle. Squirrel scrambled in and out of the trees, and Rabbit bounded high and low, but they couldn't find the moon anywhere. As the wind blew stronger, thunder rumbled through the hills. "What have you done with my moon, Squirrel?" snapped Duck. "Rabbit must have lost her," Squirrel whimpered. "I've done no such thing," grumbled Rabbit. "But what will I do without her?" squeaked Mouse. "I'll be all alone." Flash, boom, lightning lit up the sky. Crack, crash, thunder clattered over the mountains. "Follow me," shouted Rabbit. "I know where there's a cave." They raced through the storm and squeezed together into the cave. "I'm sorry I snapped," whispered Duck. "It was my fault," Squirrel piped in. "I shouldn't have blamed Rabbit." "No harm done," said Rabbit bravely. At last, the rain stopped and the clouds rumbled away. "Look, look!" cried Little Harvest Mouse. The clear, dark sky was full of twinkling stars, and peeping out from among them was the moon. It glowed bright over the mountains, glittering through the trees and the shining in the pond. "The same moon belongs to all of us," whispered Duck. "She's never really left us," said Squirrel. "Good friends never do," nodded Rabbit wisely. "And best of all," smiled Mouse, "she's given me 3 new friends." And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed our mouse stories today, and we'll see you next week.